May puwang ba para sa kababaihan sa ministry ng apologetics o defending the faith? Ano ang mahalagang papel nila sa pagtatanggol sa ating pananampalataya? Yan ang ating tatalakayin sa Expositors Edition, where we preach the word in all its simplicity, in all its practicality, in all its authority. Ako po, si Pastor Eric Cortez. At kasama po natin si Sister Sara Lawagan Mulintas, isa pong Christian apologist. Sister Sara, kailangan pa ba kailangan nga ba ang apologetics o defending the faith sa mga panahon na ito?
Sa panahong ito, naku, kailangan po. Lalo na sa panahon ngayon, in this day and age, I always tell people in this generation na kung noon kailangan, ngayon mas kailangan pa. Nung 2 weeks ago, I was just at a church dito sa Manila, and I was giving a training on evangelism. And kahit wherever naman I give a training, like ko naman sinasabi na I don't believe that the Philippines is conservative anymore. And I think many people will resonate with that. And I've been saying this even 10 years ago pa, or even, 10 years ago. It was about 10 to 15 years ago when I went into full-time ministry. And back then, I was a campus missionary. And just speaking with a student and then speaking also with young adults, I noticed na hindi na siya kasing, the beliefs that they held and the beliefs that they expressed are not as conservative as many of the older leaders in our church would say. And that was surprising to me, but also not surprising, if you know what I mean. Parang surprising that the beliefs were not as conservative as before. We're actually a lot more liberal. But also a little surprised and maybe even worried that more people in the church, at least at the church that I was involved in, were not aware. Ayun po. So, and then especially with the rise of globalization because of the internet, because of social media, lahat na ng mga kabataan ngayon, at saka hindi lang kabataan, actually everyone, everyone is able to be influenced by different things from different parts of the world. Because of that, all these contribute to our beliefs being mixed and influenced by different people and different cultures. So, do we need apologetics? Resounding yes, especially now.
Ano yung when you say conservative, liberal, anong mga example na nakita mo na nag-shift na from conservative to liberal?
When I say conservative, I mean more of like influenced by the religious beliefs of the Philippines. When we say Philippines, ang stereotype is Catholic, Roman Catholic, very religious. Maria Clara, di ba? We have those archetypes of the what do you call this? Like the
Filipino
proper
woman.
Filipino. Yeah. And even when we were growing up as a millennial, growing up in the early 90s and going to school in the early 90s, we had GMRC. We were influenced by those types of conservative values, traditional Filipino
good
values.
Manners and right conduct, GMRC.
Yeah. Nabalita ko ay binabalik na daw ngayon or gusto daw ibalik ngayon because of the
tinanggal pa eh.
Yeah. Yeah, when I say liberal, I'm referring to mga ideologies and ideas na mostly influenced by the West. So an example I would give would be people's beliefs about sexuality, for example. So it used to be that the Philippines was very, very traditional, right? And of course, meron naman tayong mga beliefs, meron tayong gays and lesbians before. They already existed. The difference was the wider acceptance of it, or not just even acceptance, the idea na it's normal, the normalization of it.
Yung belief system natin kasi ang isang napapansin ko ako bilang pastor, yung anti-intellectual mindset na meron ang mga Pilipino na para bang, of course, matindi ang resurgence ngayon ng mga debate sa doktrina. Makikita naman natin sa Facebook yan. Pero syempre kung ano lang nakikita mo sa Facebook is just a small slice. Sa kabuuan, when I talk to people offline, nakikita ko na parang para sa kanila, theology, pang pastor lang yan. Pang seminary lang yan. Do you observe that also?
Opo, actually sa katunayan nga po, I used to be like that before before I decided to go into seminary and also do my master's. Meron akong paniniwala na hindi ko kailangan yon, yung ganong level ng pag-aaral. And I think to some degree, I still believe that na there are certain subjects na hindi naman kailangang aralin ng common Christian. Although it would be great. It would be wonderful. And what I mean by that is hindi siya necessary for you to have a wonderful Christian life, a fruitful Christian life. But, and of course, we are also given different capacities of learning. Siyempre, di naman lahat ng tao ay may kakayanan na mag-aral ng Greek, for example, or Hebrew, or the other, or any of the other languages. Pero lahat po tayo ay tinatawag ng mga Kristiyano na palaguhin ang ating kaisipan because we're commanded to love God with all our minds. The interesting thing about the anti-intellectual mindset, in my observation and my experience, I noticed that more in older people, older generations.
Older, that's me.
Well, you named yourself, Pastor. Pero yung mga nasa, napansin ko, yung mga nasa university level na mga young adults and young people, it's accepted. Now, of course, you need to study more. And you need to, there should be a depth to what you're talking about. And especially with the Christian life. And I think that's also the reason why madaming mga Christian ministries that appeal to and minister to young adults and young people right now.
Yung mga smart shaming. Yung smart shaming, yung ikaw na matalino. Ganyan, bobo na ako. Mga ganong mga banat eh. O kaya, dumudugo ilong ko. Di ba yun ang mga halimbawa ng smart shaming na nangyayari ngayon, even sa churches. Although palagay ko may kasalanan din ng, minsan we teach doctrine in a way na parang siyang theoretical at hindi practical. Yun yung nakikita kong posibleng dahilan kaya nagkakaroon ng ganito mga mindset, yung anti-intellectual mindset. Oh? Ano problema ba doon? Okay lang ba yun? Hindi ba okay lang yun na ano na tayo, focus tayo sa puso, hindi sa isip?
Opo. Actually, I believe marami ng mga theologian and mga Christian apologists who have addressed this issue, and many people believe that nagsimula pa yan nung 19th century pa or 18th century pa, simula nung Industrial Revolution. Kasi naging very practical. We moved from, like studying deep things and, the more, I guess, for lack of a better term, theoretical stuff into more practical things we want to do. And hindi lang siya sa church, hindi lang siya affected sa church. Nangyari na affect din yung mga universities. Kaya even now, yung mga courses, as we call it in the Philippines, na pinipili ng mga estudyante, ng mga bata, or even na in-encourage ng mga magulang, ay something na practical, na pwede mong, i-apply ka agad para magkatrabaho. And I understand naman yun, because of economic reasons. Pero yun nga po, totoo po yun, na yung church has been affected by this anti-intellectual mindset, yung smart shaming, and it's very detrimental to our faith. Kasi kung meron mang isang belief system that benefits a lot from deeper study and all the historical background and the languages and all the intellectual aspect of it, it's Christianity. Lagi natin sinasabi, kung ang paniniwala natin ay based lang sa feelings, na I feel that I'm being blessed by God, or that God is with me, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or if it's only based from personal testimony, and again, there is a place for personal testimony. Pero kung ang faith natin ay based lang doon, anong pinagkaiba natin sa ibang mga religions and other belief systems? An example that we always give in our evangelism trainings is What is the difference between a Christian who says, I believe and I feel that Jesus is in my heart? Anong difference nun sa isang Mormon who says, there is a burning in my bosom? You know, anong pinagkaiba natin kung wala tayong intellectual grounding? So very detrimental siya when smart shaming and anti-intellectualism is perpetuated in the church.
Yung siguro para makilala ka rin ng ating mga taga-subaybay, no? Kasi kakilala lang tayo, if I remember it right, nagkatagpo yung ating landas noong tayo ay nag-conduct na ng seminar ng conversational evangelism with Pastor Michael Carino. Can you give us a bit nung ano yung personal journey mo from, sabi mo nga dati may pagka-anti-intellectual ka, paano ka napunta sa apologetics? At ngayon, you're pursuing your Doctor of Ministry sa apologetics. So, paano nagkaroon ng shift? Saan mo nakita yung kahalagaan ng apologetics sa Christian life and ministry mo?
Actually, Pastor, noong 2014, I believe, is when we first met dun sa isang apologetics training sa seminary where we both went. But how did I
IGSL,
begin?
International
Yes, IGSL,
Graduate School of Leadership.
Yes. Shout out to anyone interested in a seminary degree. But anyways, nagsimula po actually yan when I was in college. So as a college student, involved na po ako sa mga discipleship groups. I was discipling my fellow students and of course younger students. And nagpunta po ako sa UP. And as everyone knows in the Philippines, UP is the hub of activism, social activism, and also liberal intellectualism. Free thinking, yes. Free thinkers. And we pride ourselves in being critical thinkers. And I think actually, I still believe that those values are important. Critical thinking is something that I've brought later on to many other aspects of my life, even my faith. And it actually enriched my faith. Now, I know that there are people who would say na critical thinking is detrimental to your faith. Not Christianity. I prove that. But anyway, so nagsimula po yun nung ako ay estudyante pa lang. Tapos when I graduated, I joined Cru. Cru na ngayon, noon ay Campus Crusade for Christ pa as a campus missionary. And then, ayun nga po, even as a student and then later on as a campus missionary, discipling students, I saw na it's not enough. Back then, I didn't have vocabulary for it pero parang may kulang dun sa approach whenever I disciple students. Because I would give them, of course, I would tell them about Jesus, I would share the gospel, and then lead them into Bible studies. But they had questions na hindi ko masagot. So doon po yung naging motivation nun. And then, I believe that this was serendipitous, and it was also God's working. Kasi around that time, my youth pastor introduced us to a Christian apologist. And then he showed us his material. Tapos na-realize ko, meron palang mga sagot sa mga tanong. Like simple questions like, how do we know that the Bible is reliable, for example? I was very fascinated by that. So some of the earlier Christian apologists that I was introduced to are Josh McDowell and then Lee Strobel. Yeah, yun yung, and of course C.S. Lewis, because he's like the classic. But Josh McDowell, especially with his book, Evidence that Demands a Verdict.
Pareho tayo.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that gave me that amazed me. Sabi ko, wow, lahat ng mga tanong nasagot niya. And then, so wala pa namang internet ng mga panahon yun. Ay, meron ng internet pero hindi siya ganon ka-prevalent, di ba? So, siya lang yung medyo kilala ko nun. And then, so I was a campus missionary for about 4 years. And then I went into seminary sa IGSL nga after 4 years. And then I really appreciated the theological studies that I got. And I was still doing ministry at this point. At that time, na-realize ko, oh yeah, this is amazing. You know, the backgrounds and the learnings that I was getting was very helpful to my ministry. And so later on, when I finally got married and then moved here, later when I moved to the US, I decided to pursue my Doctor of Ministry in Apologetics kasi nakikita ko talaga na it's very needed. And then it was even more motivated by being in the church. Kasi na-realize ko, maraming Christians who are not only, what do you call this? They don't not only reject apologetics, they are also hostile against it.
Mhm.
And many people actually, and some, well, it's not many that I've met, pero some that I've met actually think that it's dangerous to the Christian faith.
Dahil?
So, dahil pag kine-question mo daw yung iyong faith, it will arise even more questions, and then that's not faith. That makes sense.
Parang sa kanila
Yeah.
ang faith, unquestioning obedience. Basta maniwala
Tinatanggap
ka
lang.
na lang.
Yeah,
Oo.
tama. Tama po
Oo.
siya.
Oo.
Yun.
Ang
Eh, di,
problema nun,
tapos,
pag ganon, ang problema kapag ganon, di ba? Hindi ba safe yun? At least shielded sila sa mga questions ng mga critics, ng mga
hmm.
skeptics. Hindi ba makakabuti sa Christian yun?
Ay, pero kung ganun sila, that prevents them from being effective witnesses. And I believe na part yun ng ating mandate as Christians, diba? We're called to be prepared in season and out of season. And be prepared if people are going to be asking questions regardless. So it is an advantage to you if you are prepared. And part of that preparation is theological and apologetic training, I think.
Mhm. E di, sagutin na lang nila, basta maniwala ka na lang. Ganon din ang gagawin nila. Kapag may nagtanong, wag puro katanong. Eh, alam mo, ang pananampalataya ay, sabi nga ay, basta in spite of the evidence or despite the evidence, kaya mo pa rin pagkatiwalaan yan. Di ba ganun yun?
Mm. Ayun nga po eh, sa tingin ko, there are certain aspects na we accept by faith, right? For example, hindi naman natin talaga alam kung anong itsura ni God. May itsura pa siya. Or not that God created the world. But there are many, 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 many other things that we can actually talk about and get proof for. I mean, one of my favorite philosophers, si Edward Feser, he actually, Edward Feser, he talks about how he proves God through logic. Oh, I guess that's amazing. You know, like I read his book. I'm halfway through his book, but one of his books, Five Ways of Aquinas, he talks about, he starts with like simple logic, simple objects, like the things that you observe from reality. And then he builds that up into the final conclusion is, therefore, there is a God that exists. So like, there are answers like that are available to us if only we would have the interest or even the perseverance, you know, to study. Pero hindi lang sa logic, you know, simple questions about things in the Bible, you know, artifacts. Madami po na available sa atin.
Mhm. Well, ang isang nakikita ko, na-experience ko, pananaw ko rin ito noon, na kapag yung tao ay gumagamit ng logic to question the Christian faith, ang sinasabi lang natin, ako at the time, matigas kasi puso niya eh. Ang kanyang karunungan, ang kanyang dinidiyos, yung kanyang talino. Kaya talagang mahirapan siyang tanggapin ng Panginoon. So parang nakikita ko noon at may mga taong ganun pa rin ang pananaw ngayon na magkakontra yung logic, philosophy, science sa ating pananampalataya.
There are many ways to answer that claim eh. Pero just at the top of my head, marami po tayong mga scientists, philosophers, and other intellectuals who are also Christian and who became Christian because of their specific discipline. So I don't think it's true that to say na kapag nandun ka, if you're a philosopher, if you're studying philosophy, or if you're a scientist, that automatic non-Christian ka na. Yeah, so there are many intellectuals in their different disciplines who are philosophers, scientists, doctors, and they became Christians because of their minds.
Hindi
So
despite of, kundi because of.
Because of, yeah. And I personally know some people who became Christians because of rigorous study. And of course, and if you just look at history and also, you know, other people around the world, you'll find that there are more people who came to the faith because of that. I think my hypothesis is, especially in the Philippines, we're surrounded by churches and communities and people who just who believe the opposite, or the opposite of that, which is, we become Christians through personal experience or through personal testimony. Kumbaga parang nagiging anong term doon, they became biased just because of the people who are around them. But it's actually not true that no one comes to the faith because of their intellect or because of logic or because of whatever intellectual discipline they're in.
Pero hindi natin dinidiscount na kasama rin sa pananampalataya yun, na you know what you believe or you know whom you believe. Diba? May intellectual component o may content yung ating faith. Hindi siya
Oh yeah.
basta yun na yun. Mm-hmm.
Of course, yeah. And like I said earlier, I think that's one of the main differences that we have compared to other religions. We can be confident that we have an intellectual grounding. Hindi lang tayo nagbe-base sa subjective experience. And again, like I said earlier, subjective experience is also an important aspect of the Christian life. That's why we give testimonies and personal stories, spiritual stories, because that's very, very important. It contributes to the encouragement and edifying of the church. But there has to be a balance between subjective experience and objective evidence. Otherwise, again, wala tayong pinagkaiba, wala tayong angat, kumbaga, sa other religions or belief systems.
Mm-hmm. Now, it appears na karamihan ng nakikita na involved sa apologetics o defending the faith ay mga lalaki. At kakaunti lang sa aking maliit na sirkulo, sapagkat siyempre na nag-aaral ka ngayon sa Southern Evangelical Seminary na itinayo ni Dr. Norman Geisler, the father of modern day apologetics, no? Malamang may mga kaklase kang babae, pero kahit example sa mga libro, mas madalas lalaki may gawa. Meron bang puwang ang kababaihan sa apologetics, or kasi kakaiba ka dahil with due respect, you're a woman and you're involved in apologetics. What can you say about that?
Actually, yeah, totoo po yan. Actually, even now sa SES at the Doctor of Ministry level, madalas ako lang yung babae sa klase namin.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's necessarily, it's not necessarily negative. Kasi ang ibig sabihin lang nun ay, women we know that we have this role, God-given role to be the nurturers. If you're married in your family, where then the role of nurturer goes to the woman. And I do think that we have that. We're the bigger nurturers, kumbaga. Not saying that men cannot be nurturers, but it's just that we're more inclined to be that. Thankfully, my husband is also a nurturer. But again, like I said, that role falls to me most of the time, and he has his own role. And I think what happens is that, or what happened and what is happening is that the women, Christian women especially, follow that. We're busy basically, and we're busy nurturing, mothering, wifing, all the other roles that are God-given and beautiful. And so, not to say that bawal or that it's wrong. I don't believe that it's wrong. So because of that, naturally, ang mga nasa spaces, apologetic spaces, become men. But is there a place for women, and is there something that we can contribute? Of
course. Is there a need for you?
Is there even a need for us? Yes, I would argue that yes, there's a very, very good, very great need for us. Maraming reasons pero isa pa lang that at the top of my head. To give this example, I want to share a story. When I was in 2014, I believe, I was doing street interviews, and then I interviewed this student. It was a very, I would say, intellectually stimulating discussion. So we were sparring back and forth, and then I was pushing him to the most that I could, and to the most that he would be comfortable in. And then I showed that to my mentor, and then sabi niya, you did a great job. But I think the one reason why you were able to do that, like push him that, was because you were a young woman. And then that made me realize, oh, I have a superpower. Kasi kung imagine if that was like an old man who was, pushing him, that siguro na-offend na siya. But I was I was trying to be nice and sweet. Of course, not so that I can push him, but because that's just who I am. And most women, our feminine energy is an advantage to our apologetic discussions. Pero not only that, not that we're not hindi lang yun yung reason na we're built with these feminine qualities, charm, yeah, that can aid in our apologetic conversations. Pangalawa, we have so much influence. I would say even as a mother, for example, the first line of defense for children who ask questions about life and about God are the moms, usually, right? So it is to the benefit of the family, of the children, of the family, if the wife learns theology and apologetics.
At sinasagot pa ng mga lalaki, pa nagtatanong yung anak tanong mo sa nanay mo.
Diba?
May pag hindi alam ng nanay, tanong mo sa tatay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
pero really yung advantage na yung nanay marunong patungkol sa pananampalataya.
Of course, yeah, they're very much. And hindi lang po dahil hindi lang yon. Not just na merong benefits sa family, but also as a child of God, as a Christian, it is to your advantage to learn more about who God is and why he exists, for example. So all these deep things contribute to your own personal growth as a Christian. And your Christianity, your spirituality, you cannot outsource that, Just because your husband is spiritual, and that's good, doesn't mean that you will be too. Although, of course, may influence yun. Pero you're responsible for your own faith. So as a Christian yourself, you have to take the responsibility to learn about these things.
Actually, example, ikaw, sa experience mo, knowing that your husband, si Henrik, ay pursuing his Master of Divinity. Kung na-imagine ko lang kung halimbawa ikaw ay isang lalaki na you are deep into theology, bagamat mabuti rin siya dahil sasayad ka sa lupa, kumbaga, it's a humbling thing na pag uwi mo sa bahay, ay hindi ka pwedeng magpa-impress asawa mo sa alam mo. Pero nakakalungkot din kung halimbawang you wanted to talk about these things, pero pagdating sa bahay, parang hindi na-appreciate yung ganong thoughts. Kaya somehow, pagdating sa bahay, ang dating I'll just check out my brain, iwan ko muna sa may pinto pagpasok ko sa bahay. And for someone who's studying the deep things in theology, nakakalungkot yun. Parang tuloy, you would rather spend time outside the family, sa labas, sa school, talking with people, kesa pag-usapan yung mga bagay na pinag-iisipan mo kahit i-bounce off mo lang sa asawa mo sa bahay ninyo. So, do you think Henrik sees that as an advantage na ikaw din ay aral at siya'y nag-aaral ngayon?
Opo. Actually, he would say, if you ask him, that's one of the first things that attracted him to me, or that he was attracted by my brains, Char. So,
hindi lang beauty, brains. Haba lang hair.
Yeah. Pero I would say po na our shared interest in theology and apologetics actually contributes to our intimacy too. Kasi we are, that's what we're called to do as a husband and wife. You should pursue God, and it just so happens that we're doing it formally. We're both studying. Ayun po, it's very advantageous. And I would say then, I think if we want women, and especially wives, to be able to study, there's a huge role that the husband could play and act as the leader of the household. And that would be to make sure to give space to the wife to study, because I wouldn't be able to do these things if hindi kami nagko-collaborate, in terms of, for example, household chores, childcare. We take turns having classes kasi hindi kami pwede magsabay kung hindi, wala. So it just takes a lot of planning. Pero the question is it worth it? I think that's something that many husbands should ask. Is it worth it for my wife to learn more about God and the deep things about God in the Bible? And I think the question should always be, the answer should always be yes. And then, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that the wife would go off to a seminary or take classes in seminary. It could even be, simple things like giving maybe 30 minutes to an hour so that the wife could read a book. They can even do a book study together and then come together, at the end of the week and then discuss these things. So there are many, many ways. Just have to get creative kung paano ba ma-apply yon.
Eh di ba, paano yung mga lalaki na intimidate na parang mas matalino pa asawa nila sa kanila at sasabihin nila, puro kontra na lang itong asawa ko, palagi nila akong tinutuwid. Paano mo ma-handle yung ganung sitwasyon na yung mga lalaki na intimidate dahil mukhang mas matalino yung asawa nila sa kanila?
I think dapat ang maging mindset ng mga husbands is to think na, oh, I have someone smart in my family. Advantage ko yun. That's a huge contribution sa aming family. But also, that should also be a challenge, for the husband to step up and continue to learn. Kasi kung yung wife mo ay very smart, let's just say, you're very smart and then aral na aral, I don't believe that the answer should be to stop that or to tamp that down. I think that's a huge disservice and also a wrong way to steward that. So if the husband thinks of it in terms of stewardship, that I am the leader of the household and I want to steward the resources that our family has, then the best thing to do is to encourage that and to grow that and to nurture that. And then take that as motivation to study more.
Bagay naman, sa pag-aaral ang talino daw ng anak nakukuha sa ina. Kaya tanggap na namin mga lalaki, nakagandahan lalaki lang nakuha ng mga anak namin sa amin. Di ba? Pero
Pastor, matalino ka dahil sa nanay mo, di ba?
Well, yung mga asawa natin, no? Kasi sabi nila ang mga babae daw, kumbaga kung may left brain, right brain, ang mga lalaki daw ay left brainer at ang mga babae daw ay right brainer. Ang mga lalaki ay logical, yun daw yung left brain At ang right brain daw ay illogical. Hindi, seriously, emotional. Would that come into play sa apologetics? Ibig sabihin, kasi ang tingin nga ng mga tao sa apologetics, intellectual logical.
Yeah.
Paano magpe-play yung emotional? Di ba nga, utak ang pinag-uusapan natin dito sa apologetics.
I would say, so first muna, just a comment on sa logical, that men are more logical. If that is true, and I think there might be, evidence that says that that is true, majority, then that's an advantage to them. So that should motivate men to study and keep studying. Pero, so just to answer the question, like what about the emotional aspect and women being, I wouldn't say that we're more emotional, we're just more in touch with our emotions. Because men are also emotional, they just don't admit it because it comes out in different ways or they're not aware of it.
Kasi kayo mga babae, pag may pinagdadaanan kayo, pwede kayo mag-group hug Kami mga lalaki, hindi kami pwede mag-group hug.
Diba? And it comes out sometimes sa mga less mature, not necessarily bad, but less mature men, it comes out in destructive ways, yung pagiging emotional nila. So yun yung naging advantage ng men na we're in touch with our emotions. We know what we're feeling, and so we can address it properly. But how does that come into play with apologetics? Very much. Kasi nga, ang stereotype na nga ng karamihan sa apologetics ay, sterile, very serious, dry, yeah. Pero that's the advantage that women can give, that women have. We can contribute. We can contribute life back into it. Kumbaga, we can infuse back the emotions that are actually necessary when we're speaking with someone. Kasi when you're using apologetics in day-to-day life, for example, when you're answering a question that your child has, or you're answering a question that your disciple has in church, probably, or you're answering a question that your coworker has, or may na-address kang comment na binigay ng isang friend mo na about the Bible or about whatever apologetic issue, hindi ka naman mag-spout off lang ng information eh. Diba? You're not just gonna, if that's gonna be what you're gonna do, di sana nag-Google na lang sila. Yeah, or nag-AI, nag-ChatGPT na lang sana sila. Pero that's the advantage of the human connection. When you're communicating these things, then you can be empathetic. You can be more sympathetic towards the plight of the other person. You can distinguish and discern what the question is under the question. So, isipin mo, talaga bang yun yung tanong niya? Or nag-rant lang ba siya? Nag-vent lang siya? Yun yung advantage natin over someone reading information in a book or, reading something from a search engine. Or even sometimes just hearing it from a preacher on the pulpit. Kasi wala namang connection yun. Nag-speak lang yung speaker sa harap, di ba?
One way lang.
Nga pala, yeah, yun din, isang aspect din pala yun ng apologetics. Ang apologetics is not just someone speaking in front to many, many people. Apologetics is applied life to life, daily, in your many relationships. And if you're a relational person, then it works to your advantage if you are emotional or in touch with your emotions.
Kasi nga ako, na-realize ko, as I was listening to you, ako, may tendency ako na, which I'm still trying to grow dun sa area na yon, I listen to reply, to respond. Yun yung kailangan ko mag-grow sa area na yon. I listen to understand. Yun ang dapat. Which, kung tutuusin, it comes naturally with women because you're more in touch with your emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Opo, totoo po yun. So yun nga, advantage yun. And it contributes to hopefully not pushing away the person from Christianity or from the faith or even from God. I think maraming mga bagay or maraming mga situations na nasasayang pag hindi involved ang emotion. And what I mean by that is pag hindi involved ang empathy or, even the ability to be honest when you don't know the answers to the question is usually attached to people who are in touch with their emotions. Kasi you can say that, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question yet, but I can journey with you, and that takes a certain level of emotional maturity.
Na kung tutusin, kaya din ng lalaki, kaya lang, hindi naman natin sisabing sa babae lang ito. Pero mas ginagamit ng mga babae ito at kami mga lalaki naman, minsan, takot din kami sa emotion namin. Naisip ko lang nga, Sister Sarah, yung, di ba may mga aklat, emotionally healthy spirituality. Siguro, isa sa pwedeng offshoot ng discussion na to, baka makasulat ka ng aklat, emotionally healthy apologetics. Para kasama yun sa apologetics. Pero di ba nga, that's what you're teaching sa conversational evangelism na pinaka-umpisa, you listen as a musician, di ba? You listen for sour notes. Can you expound on that more about yung gamit na gamit nyo to, mas strengthening nyo to mga kababaihan, I believe. No, yung you listen to understand.
Yeah, pag alam naman natin to, I think most of us would have experienced speaking to someone, tapos yung someone na yun, na hindi talaga siya nakikinig sa'yo. Alam mo yun, parang gusto lang niyang i-solve yung mga problema mo. Or baka, is that mostly women? And with their husbands, na meron kaming problema and the husbands want to solve our problems right away. But I believe that most of us have experienced that. And if you're on the receiving end of that advice, when you're sharing a problem, it can be very frustrating. So, when we're
sasagot ng ganito lang yan eh. Dali-dali lang ng problema mo eh. Yung pala, gusto nyo lang ilabas yung nararamdaman nyo. May ganun din sa mga taong hindi naniniwala. Tama?
Yeah, opo. Yeah. So, yun nga, kapag nag-share sila ng mga, just an example, siguro someone who is very hostile or halatang may may sama siya ng loob sa church or sa mga Christians, and very hostile siya. Sa mga ganong klaseng tao, hindi makakatulong kung pipreachan mo lang siya or bigyan mo siya ng information about the gospel. So just like because I have a background with crew, kung may ganong tao, hindi siya makakatulong kung sabi ko, oh, Law 1, God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life. Galit nga siya kay God eh. Wala siyang pake. So in those cases, it helps to get deeper and try to say, why would you say that? Or what ano yung issue mo behind the issue? So that you can find ano ba talaga yung problem niya. And what we usually teach in these conversational evangelism trainings is most people, not saying that they don't exist, but most people, their issue is not really primarily intellectual, but it's usually emotional. So meron pa rin naman, may mga tao na mas intellectual yung kanilang problema at yun talaga yung talagang nagkakause sa kanila to stumble and to not get closer, not take that next step towards God. Pero many of the issues are emotional din. And if that is not addressed, then we lose a very important opportunity to bring them closer to Jesus.
Halimbawa, yung issue ng theodicy or the problem of pain and evil. Kadalasan, ako, sa experience ko sa apologetics, hindi siya, hindi siya intellectual question. It's more of an emotional question. Diba? Ganun diba experience mo pag ang pinag-uusapan na, if there's a good God, why does evil exist? O bakit may pain sa world? Diba?
I just took a class last year on the problem of evil. Pero yon, that was very specifically the philosophical aspect. And I remember our professor said, nag-disclaimer kagad siya sa simula. Sabi niya, I know that this is very interesting to many of you, but this is a philosophical approach to the problem of evil, not pastoral. Although, of course, having that intellectual grounding could inform the way that you minister to people who are in pain. But there's definitely a difference between ministering pastorally versus ministering intellectually. So yun nga po, totoo po yun. I think that most people need more of a pastoral approach, so more empathy, more comfort in that regard.
Which comes naturally sa kababaihan. Samantala kung yung mga lalaki, we have to work on it even if we have also the same heart, the same emotion. Kaya lang, kami kumbaga yung kailangan kasi pumapasok yung machismo sa amin eh. Medyo para sa amin, ako, sa context ko, wag na lang yung baka sabihin ni mga lalaki, I'm speaking for them. Ako na lang, sa context ko, I grew up in a family na hindi kami sanay mag-apologize. I grew up in a family na kapag yung ganyang mga sitwasyon, hindi pwede iyak-iyak ka dyan. Diba? Lalaki ka, iyak-iyak ka dyan. So, may nag-play yun ng role in how I also listen, how I talk to people. At siguro kung di ako naging Christian, I would have been a very insensitive guy. Pero sa awa ng Diyos, kahit papano, growing in that area. No? You mentioned about being yung bilang ina sa mga anak. Kasi I remember, merong isang nakausap ako na nalaman ko along the way na atheist siya. At ang kanyang background ay Christian siya. At in fact, marami kaming common friends. So tinanong ko sa kanya, sabi ko, hindi kita gustong debatihin ha. I just wanted to know what happened to you. At ang sabi niya ito, pag umuwi siya ng bahay, at meron siyang tanong tungkol sa Sunday school lesson na narinig niya. Halimbawa, paano nagkasi yung si Jonah sa balyena? Ang liit lang ng lalamunan ng balyena. Di ba? Ang sinagot ng nanay, although madali lang naman sagot doon. Sinabi ng Bible, big fish. Di naman sinabi ng Bible na balyena. Pero ang sinagot lang ng nanay, basta maniwala ka na lang. Alam mo, because of that, nag-search siya sa internet and he got supposedly the answers, but from the wrong sources. Kaya siya naging atheist. So, naisip ko yun nung kinukwento na bilang isang ina, mahalaga din na alam mo what and why you believe para yung mga anak mo ay man-nurture mo sa pananampalataya. Now, that's a common idea sa trabaho ng babae. Sinabi ng Bible, women teach other women, women teach
Mhm.
children. Pero alam naman natin, isa sa debate ngayon sa Christian circles na nabubuhay na naman because sa issue ng Christian family ay yung complementarian at egalitarian. Basically, complementarian, male leadership in the church. Ngayon, kapag sa egalitarian ay no gender. Kapag may gift ka, you can serve in whatever position in the church like maging pastor. Do you think disadvantage ito, halimbawa, siguro sa egalitarian church, walang problema. Ang isang babae na interesado sa apologetics, involved sa apologetics ministry, pero sa isang complementarian church, may posibleng problema o hadlang sa pag-involve sa ganitong ministry. Sasabihin, o magtuturo ka sa babae lang. Magtuturo ka sa mga bata lang. What do you think of it?
So, ang alam naman po natin, ang complementarianism and egalitarianism is a spectrum. So, we could be soft egalitarianism or hard egalitarianism. Soft complementarian, moderate, hard. And then on the other end of the spectrum, on both ends, are feminism and then patriarchalism. Personally po, I identify as soft complementarian. Pero the idea of having these spectrums, means that there are different expressions and different cultures and different churches. Hindi naman siya monolith. Walang isang kultura sa isang church. Porque they identify as egalitarian, ganito na silang lahat. Hindi sila pare-pareho. Sa complementarian side, sino po yung tanong nyo, no?
Yung sinasabi nila, lalaki lang ang pastor. Lalaki lang magtuturo sa babae. May mga ganon. Yung mga hard complementarian na tinatawag. Paano ngayon yun kung mayroong isang babaeng interesado sa apologetics, pero ganon ang setup niya?
So, kahit ganon, I think, personally, I believe, kahit na even sa pinaka-hard na complementarians, marami pa ring opportunities. Okay, so yeah, in very strict, hard complementarian churches, women should teach women. So then do that. You will not lack in resources that you can have as a woman to learn. Pero hindi lang yon, marami po tayong mga resources ngayon sa internet. So marami ng ministries ngayon who are specifically catering, praise God, to women who are interested in learning about these things, and even mothers. So, even in I would say the strictest kind of church, there are many opportunities. But I would also say na, kasi totoo naman po, no, sa mga usually, or at least in my observation, sa mga very, very hard complementarian churches, medyo kulang yung discipleship sa women. Kasi nga, ina-assume na yung man, yung magdi-disciple sana sa pamilya nila. And that's good. I think that effort is a good thing, na you're having even in as a soft complementarian, I believe that the husband should be given resources and nurtured as the leader of the family. Pero ang nagiging consequence nun ay hindi nagpa-flow down yung information as it should be, or because of life. The husband is also the provider, so hindi niya natuturuan yung kanyang pamilya. Busy, yeah, just because of life. So it's to the advantage of the family unit and of the woman, of everyone in the family, if there are different resources that are tapped into for the learning of the wife. So kung paano man yon ma-express or magagawa ng church, that's up to them. Pero I think it's very, very necessary, and in fact, very important and vital to the life of the family and the church if women are discipled.
Ako, bilang pastor, iniisip ko, paano ko ngayon ma-encourage ang mga kababaihan namin to get involved in, kahit na nga hindi mo tawagin apologetics kumbaga, lumago sa kagandang loob at kaalaman ng Panginoon. Ano ang pwede nating, saan siya magsisimula kung gusto niya na lumalim pa sa kaalaman pagdating sa ating pananampalataya ang isang babae sa church?
I always encourage the women, or not just women, anyone actually in the church, to find kung meron silang someone in the church that they can look up to be mentored by. So hopefully, your church has these people, and I believe naman na meron people who also want to help younger believers grow in their faith and knowledge of the Bible and God. So I think yun yung first line of defense, is to look to these people in the church. Ngayon, kung wala talaga, which I know is also is a situation in many churches, or for whatever reason hindi sila available, or hindi siya culture sa church, then you look to other people, hopefully people around you in the community. I think face-to-face pa rin is the best kung possible. But also, like I mentioned it earlier, marami po tayong mga resources na free actually in the internet. One resources, for example, for moms that I've found helpful is mamabearapologetics.com. So,
Ba't ba Mama Bear?
kasi ang mama bear, di ba, they protect their cubs. So, like the bears, we as the Mama Bear Christians, Mama Bear apologists, want to protect our children from the influence and the ideas and ideologies of the world. So, we're being their protector, and in that way, training them to become, not to be isolated, but to be able to fight back against these things. Doon ko pa natutunan sa Mama Bear Apologetics. And another resources, by the way, is womeninapologetics.com, I believe. WIA.com or womeninapologetics.com. Pero doon ko natutunan sa dalawang yon yung concept na when you're raising children, do not isolate, inoculate. So, like when you're giving a vaccine to a child, bibigyan mo siya, idea of the vaccine is to give the child a little bit of the disease, di ba? To make the child immune sa disease. So, ganun din sa Christian faith and the way that we deal with the world. We don't isolate them from these influences, but we introduce them a little bit at a time, of course, according to the age and the maturity of the child, so that when they're exposed to these things in the world later on, hindi sila gulantang, which is the experience of many sheltered children. They're not aware at all of these influences. Tapos when they go to school or they go out, they meet different people, they're shocked. And then because they're shocked and because it's never talked about at home, they think na hindi siya dapat pag-usapan. Or maybe because when they ask their parents just shut them down. Ang nagiging response doon would be to find answers elsewhere. And katulad nga po ng kwento nyo kanina na naghanap siya ng answers from other sources, and then she found answers from a different place. That's a reality for many, many children right now, and for many young adults. And I always tell people, even mga parents of young adults who come to me and ask for advice, is, wouldn't you rather that you journey with your child with whatever question she's asking or he's asking, rather than, because you should, it's better that you journey with your child and find answers together, because if you don't, your child will find answers regardless, and you might not like where they will find the answers. So it's better that you're involved in that process of finding answers, not so that you can hover over them, but so you can provide guidance, because that's what parenting is. You're providing guidance even in the way that they find answers.
Sa huling bahagi ng ating panayam, would like to ask you to challenge yung mga kababaihan to get involved sa ganitong pananaw, sa ganitong ministeryo ba ng pagtatanggol sa pananampalataya, sa apologetics.
Sa mga nanay, I'll start with the mothers like me. I have 2 children. I have a 3-year-old and a 9-month-old right now. So I'm very young. Pero for the mothers out there of little children, I think this is the best time. I would even say the most important time that you can study deeper and apologetics, pagtatanggol sa Panginoon, at mga other things about theology. Kasi di ba sila nakakapagtanong? So even when you're pregnant, start the earlier the better. So gawin niyo po yun, not just for your child's benefit, but for your benefit din as a Christian. Kasi nga po, ang tawag sa atin na mga Kristiyano ay to love God with all our heart, soul, minds, and strength. And so if we're not studying, if we're not learning more about God, then we are disobeying. So that's a challenge for moms, but not just for moms, but also for other women in the church. The church is called the body of Christ, di ba? And so as a part of the body of Christ, if hindi tayo nagpapalago at we're not taking steps to improve ourselves and to learn more, we impair the body. Hindi tayo nakakapag-contribute to the best that we can if we don't learn more about God and about the Bible and how to defend it. So, isipin niyo na lang po yun. If not even for yourself, isipin niyo na hindi tayo nakaka-contribute sa body of Christ. So, maraming advantages to yourself, to your family, to the body of Christ, and consequently to the larger church and to the world if we are learning and improving in our knowledge about God.
Thank you, Sister Sarah, at God bless you.
Thank you po.
Marami pong salamat sa inyong pagsubaybay sa isa na naman pong mayamang talakayan dito sa Expositors Edition, where we preach the Word in all its simplicity, in all its practicality, in all its authority. Ako po, si Pastor Eric Cortez na nagpapaalala, ang katotohanang nagpapalaya, katotohanang isinasagawa.